Alright, so in this vlog, we'll be covering a situation that occurred a couple weeks ago between two of my closest friends. We will also be incorporating the NAPS relational model, the development stage model, and another key communication conflict principle. Um, so, additionally, basically, what happened in this situation is two of my friends, one of them is in a fraternity, and then the other one does door to door sales, but they go to the same school. So they were the closest friends all throughout high school. I was cool with them, but they were closer, and they were almost inseparable. So I would say high school, the first four, all throughout high school to graduation was stages 1 through 5 on the NAPS model. Um, and then once they got into college, there was definitely a shift. They still, had glimpses of stages 1 through 5. However, 6 through 10 were definitely foreshadowed for sure. So once my friend Avery joined the fraternity, the other friend would almost came from a place of anger and disownment, if that makes sense. So to give you background, because that's very much important. So background, personality, worldview, and culture all make up context. Context is really important with this story because the two of them are very different. I think if there was this spectrum of personality, they're on polar opposites. One of them is very outgoing, that's Jan, the door-to-door guy, and then the other one who's in the fraternity is very more kept to himself, likes to, is more introverted per se. However, the introverted one is a lot more, open to things. However, he is very spiritual. They're both very spiritual people, so they have that spiritual worldview. The only issue is Jan is the one who has the more skewed and judgmental, puts himself on a pedestal, thinks he's better than others because of, you know, spiritual reasons, which I don't think is okay. It's great that they both are spiritual. However, this is where a lot of issues became prevalent and this led to their demise. My advice on that. So as far as that goes, active listening is vital. Active listening is vital throughout the entire process, but expressing your emotions and active listening go hand in hand, because how can you adequately express your emotions if the other person isn't actively listening, if they're kind of just brushing you off and whatnot. And I think that's where the cooperative principle comes into play. That's where, covered in chapter 8, we make our conversational contributions as informative, honest, relevant, and clear as is required. And that's what they should have done, because there is a miscommunication on one situation where my friend and I, who we both go here, we tried to plan something with those two, and they didn't want to see each other. This was when the conflict was occurring, and there was just a giant miscommunication, and there was no one being direct. So active listening and clear and concise emotional expression facilitated using the cooperative principle would have helped leading up to it, and would have prevented the phone call which occurred. We all four of us, so me and my roommate, and then those two friends, we all got on a phone call because they were going to talk it out. So we heard the whole conversation. This is essentially where the terminating stage occurred. So the last stage, stage 10, that pretty much summed up everything and what happened. Neither of them listened. I would say Avery listened more than Jan. However, Jan was very much defensive throughout the entire process and would interrupt and always had something to say, criticizing and kind of not being constructive and not being an active listener, which was, I think, the downfall of their friendship, was not listening and letting your emotions and because here's the thing, a lot of times in life we don't see eye to eye with individuals, but we could still, give them the respect to be active listeners and, empathizing, seeing their perspective and putting yourself in their shoes, because that lens is very much different from ours. Even if we can only get a smidge of a glimpse of it, it's still important to use. And those are the key principles that I would have recommended had I been in their shoes. I think Avery behaved a lot more maturely than Jan throughout that entire process. But in conclusion, my two friends who aren't friends anymore went through all 10 of the NAP stages as they are juniors in college now. The conflict consisted of ethical principles, morals, values, worldviews, and just personality all in all. So that was the context, and that's why context is so important. Emotions did get the best of both of them, which was one of the significant factors on why they aren't friends anymore. And active listening was not instilled, which led to miscommunication. I would have prevented all of those by implementing the cooperative principle, which allows individuals to make conversational contributions as informative, honest, relevant, and clear as required. But other than that, that's what it is. My call to action is to give it some time, because a lot of times friends and people do need space. You know, sometimes terminating stages aren't forever. You know, relationships go through no contact and stuff, and I believe friendships can go through that too. So it's not always the end of the world. Forgiveness is huge. Forgive, not forget, which is what we learned recently in class. But yeah, that's that. Thank you for listening to this vlog.